Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark, you know you have invitation. You're good? Item number 3, invocation by Commissioner Sauger.
Okay, we bow our heads in prayer to thank God for the many gifts and talents of each commissioner. We thank you for the privilege of serving the fine people of Macomb County. We ask your blessing on our deliberations today. May our decisions be inspired by our genuine concern and fairness for those who elected us as their stewards. May your spirit of wisdom be our guiding light. We ask this through Jesus Christ, our brother. Amen.
Thank you. Item number 4, I need a motion to adopt today's agenda by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Drollet. Please vote. I think Commissioner Brown gave the nod.
Okay.
Motion passes. Item number 5, need approval of minutes for dated January 16th, 2019, April 30th, 2019, and 23rd of January of 2020. Someone makes the motion and needs an explanation on that. I'll be happy to explain. Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Brown. Mike, would you, the 2 meetings from 19 were small public hearing meetings that somehow didn't get approved last year. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Any questions on these? I don't see any questions. Please vote.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 6, public participation. Any members of the public wishing to speak, you have 5 minutes, limited to items on the agenda. Any members of the public wishing to speak? Third and final time, seeing no members of the public, we're going to close public participation. Item number 7, correspondence from the Office of County Executive. We're going to scratch none because Deputy Executive Wolber is here. Hello, Vicki.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Nice to see everybody again.
Oh, will you turn the microphone on, please? The
I
button
always
in the
forget.
back.
I'm always
Thank you.
loud enough usually, but, or so I'm told. Just wanted to do a little recap from obviously the meetings we've had this week on the jail project, just so we're all on the same page. As you know, during our meetings, we talked about 2 revised plans that we've come up with, and basically the reasoning for those plans was relooking at where we were going with all the criminal justice reforms, taking a look at the population in the jail, and making sure that we were all doing our due diligence in what we were going to present. So what we discussed and the 2 options that we came up with are a decrease in beds. We're essentially with both plans at initial bed capacity of 1,034 rather than the 1,518 that was presented back in June. Obviously, with those plans, there's a decrease in the amount. For a new building plan, totally new, it's roughly $303 million. For a new addition plus a renovation to the tower area, roughly looking at $290 million between the 2. The proposal that our office is going to bring forward with our team and the sheriff's office is going to be for building a new jail. It was discussed that the renovation, just from a dollar sense, really doesn't make sense over time, as well as getting into other areas of future maintenance. There's issues concerning how the inmates actually move within those, would move within a renovated facility. There's also, between the 2 design plans, differences in the staffing models. That was discussed in a new plan. There are still going to be additional staff. But the cost for that is $3 million roughly, versus if we did a renovation and new model plan, that cost is almost double. So again, that leans us towards bringing forward a recommendation for building a new jail with the lower capacity. We discussed the estimated millage rate. Again, it's still estimated at this time, though we think we're pretty close, is down to 0.7 mils rather than 0.98, where we were at before. And we'll have more details of that when we come back. Any questions so far? I just have a couple other areas I want to hit.
I don't have any questions up yet.
Okay. The next thing is there were a lot of questions that came up in the sessions. I was keeping track of those questions, so I'm just going to go through the questions. We're not prepared to give answers today, but I just wanted to make sure I captured the concerns so we do come back in March and are forthright and answer all those questions. So we know there was a question about the bonds and other bonds that are going to be expiring and the potential for those, and then maybe even trying to bring the millage rate down to half a mil was asked. We know you want to see the 2 millage rates again, even though in the ballot proposal it'll be one total amount. We will come back with the millage rate for the facility itself and the construction, and then also one that shows for the additional staffing that's required. We know there were quite a few questions surrounding the staffing model and how that works. There are questions about what happens with the overtime that we'll be saving with the staffing models, and questions about correction staff versus then any of the hospital staff, and what does that do with our medical contract. Obviously, there's corrections or community corrections for that assessment intake personnel. So we're going to make sure that we come back with those answers and explanation. We know there was the question asked about use of the JJC facility. There were questions surrounding the tether program and use of that. There were also questions about future maintenance, and that will come back with maintenance. If the proposal passes in August, we'll still come back with the potential list. There will probably still need to be ongoing maintenance, even though we know we're building a new facility, some things that'll just have to be done. And then obviously too, looking at if it doesn't pass, you'll still have a list then, okay, these things going forward will have to be addressed. We had conversations and some questions about the educational piece of moving this forward in front of the potential voters as well. And let me see. And that is all I had. Does anybody have anything in addition or that I missed that they'd like to see?
I have a few questions that may address that. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Vicki, for that summary. How many new staffers would we be looking at with this new proposal for the new building?
For the new building, I believe it's 39.
Okay, and do you know how much of our overtime will be offset? Do we have an idea of that yet by having the new staff?
No, that'll be all part of the calculation in March, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, will any of the new millage that covers the operations part with the new staff, will that offset money that we're currently spending? In other words, are we going to take money that we're currently using from the general fund and now use that for the have the millage support that, and therefore have more money in the general fund than we otherwise would?
I think that's right. Yeah.
So,
any of those savings, Commissioner, will be factored into the millage rate by factoring in an overtime reduction factor.
okay, so the millage rate will only cover the additional costs of the facility that we expect to have,
Correct.
not cover existing costs of the facility we're
Correct.
currently paying.
Correct.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. Commissioner Haw.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that update, Vic. One of the other attributes we discussed is an assurance that any future modifications between now and when this vote takes place is assessed of whether or not it would still remain a necessity after the jail was being built. I know the sheriff used the example about the locking doors. We're not talking about keeping doors unlocked with prisoners in there, but we're talking about IT and other attributes. So that was an important issue, I believe Commissioner Drollet had raised.
Correct, and I didn't explain that piece, but yes, that'll be part of the presentation, one of the areas we'll address.
Great.
So that
And
you know that,
for the
as much
record-
as we know now.
For the record, this now becomes Plan A and only plan that we
Correct.
have, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki.
Hello.
Vicki, I think you were going to cover this in March. I'll just bring it up in case it wasn't brought up. And I asked this question yesterday. When we originally had 1,400 prisoners in the correction facility, we had 162 correction officers. Now we're going down to 900. We still have 162 correction officers, but we're adding 17 more. So we have 500 less prisoners, but we're adding 17 more correction officers. Now, you said you would address this in March, and that's fine. I'll wait till March till you address it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else, but I have a few questions. And one of them is, obviously, the new design is still going to take into account direct supervision, correct? And direct
Yes.
supervision, from what I remember, also generally requires less officers there. So, I mean, and obviously, in March, you guys will explain maybe that had 162, but we've been staffing with overtime for technically 220. Who knows? You know, I mean, that might be the answer to all this. But let me ask you this, and I only caught a part of it yesterday, but I've heard from a bunch of people, but I didn't get this. When it was 1,500 beds the first time, how many new staff were they proposing? And now that it's 1,000, I'm just rough numbers.
I believe it was close to 86.
Okay.
I think new staff. Does that sound about right? 86?
And now it's dropped to what? I mean, generally what we're talking about?
39.
Okay,
Between correction staff and community correction staff.
great, thanks. And then, I mean, I agree on the new versus the renovation, because I've renovated in my life, and we probably all have, and you always find surprises. I mean, so the price might be, $293, but when you're done finding everything that you didn't know was there, it might be, significantly more than building new. So I think that's a great call, since it seems like it's so close. Mental health is obviously, I think, the biggest issue that we have with beds, right? So we're knocking down the beds to 1,000, which is, seems reasonable. But all these people that come in that are potential inmates, but they're diverted to mental health, is that going to be accounted for on that campus, or do we have a place to, because it might be 400 people, right? I mean, say we're not going 1,500, we're going 1,000. So maybe there's 500 people that have mental health issues that are going to need to go somewhere. Is that accounted for in general in this plan on that campus?
Right. Essentially what we did, we looked at the critical areas like we did in the beginning, and we always knew, in addition to the whole assessment center, our other greatest need was those specialty beds. So really, the number of specialty beds from the proposal you saw in June has essentially not changed.
Okay.
Because we realize that factor. And if anything's probably going to continue in that trend, it's going to be those types of beds. Where you see the biggest decrease in the number of beds is in the general population area.
And is there any thought, I mean, if the trend continues that way, and maybe 900 is, a third too much, in 10 years, we realize that we're down to an average of 500, but we need more. Is this going to be built to maybe have a couple of those floors be accessible to be specialty beds at one point? I mean, just looking into the future, if things change, just wondering if we're looking that far in advance that they could actually switch between incarceration to more specialty areas per floor.
You might be able to do that. I think that would take some, thought in that, just because of how those beds are set up and staffed and accessibility.
I get it.
within
It's just
but-
something that it seems like if the trend continues,
Right.
who knows what 10 years brings us. It's
Right.
already bringing us a good downtrend in, incarceration. So,
Right.
No. Harold, did you sign up again?
Yes, I did, sir.
All right, second round.
Thanks, Chair. I'm a member of the Problem Resolution Center for Macomb County, and they were talking about the criminal justice reform initiatives that are taking place, and they have seen almost a 40% upswing in mediation, teleconferencing with judges and prosecutors, and Rob may have seen this more in the courts. And they were looking at that as a possible tool to deal with the mental health issue and reducing population in the jails as well. They have just received a grant from the state to even increase more and are expanding it outside of Macomb County. So I thought that would be an attribute to consider.
To look at too, correct, right. I think you're just going to continue to see that trend and programs like that increase.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any other speakers. Vicky, thank you for coming. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Just for moving forward, just want to make sure our plan basically in March and April is to bring you the same packet. In March, we were thinking more would just be a presentation of the new materials more in detail. So that's how we were viewing it, make a presentation, you get the packet with the ballot language, and then when we come in April, it'll essentially be the same packet, though with final numbers on the millage rate and the financial piece, and then that will actually be a request to approve the ballot language. So just, and more of this is process and entering it into Civic Clerk and Board Sync. If there's a change in any of that, if you could just let me know so that we put it in appropriately. But that's kind of how we were thinking of doing it. And we'll have building info, the cost info, staffing, financial, and then the ballot language will be in the packet.
Commissioner Brown?
I'd like to see the ballot, the numbers and the ballot language a month in advance of us bringing it forward, instead of getting it at the same time of giving us the numbers the same month we're supposed to get it, to vote on it the same week sometimes.
Yep.
I want to make sure we got enough time to look at it and consider those numbers.
An estimate will be included in March.
I don't want an estimate, I want a hard dollar. I don't want to, because,
Well-
but is the estimate going to be close? I mean, it'll
Yes.
probably be right on, right? It's-
Yes. Yeah, we're good on our building and cost figures. It's just waiting really for the assessment pieces to come in and that piece to nail it down. But we believe we're very close in where we are, and
But
that's
still,
really
I'd like,
more
I
on
don't
the
want to,
finance
I don't want to be
side.
I don't want to be given the hard number, the same time where, so here's the number, and that's what you got to vote on it, within, we get it, sometimes we get it in 5 days, sometimes we get it 7 days, sometimes we don't get it at all until, I want to make sure we just got enough cushion, so we got the total package a month in advance, so we can look at it and then say, okay, we got it, we'll consider it, and, give us
Well,
ample time to review, so that's my personal preference.
And as long
The
as
board's,
we'll bring it back in April, and then there's a May deadline when it has to be to the clerk. So depending on when we get the
And
info
that can't be
for you.
accelerated.
We'll, it just, for everybody's purpose, as soon as you get it to us, whether we have meetings or not, we will certainly make sure that everybody gets the newest information in a timely fashion. And I would assume that the estimate's going to be very close to the final number, and the big problem would be if it was, way below the final number, right? I mean, that would be, I think, the only real issue with it. And we'd be really happy if it was way above the final number. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vicki, good to see you. I know we have our clerk, Fred Miller, here, and you indicated May. That's to get it on the August ballot. Is that
Correct.
correct? Do we know if that's early May or late May? Just, do you know, Fred? Yeah. No, for the election in August, how early, is it early May or late May for the deadline to put a ballot proposal language on there? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to
That's
say
just-
like the May 5th maybe.
So it's early
is
May.
what it is, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Just so we know, because going along with Commissioner Brown's, I mean, I know you're gonna get it to us as early as you can, but I wanna know, since this will come through my committee, what exactly is the final deadline to get it on for the August?
Commissioner Leonetti, it's May 12th.
May 12th?
12th,
Oh,
okay,
thank you.
thanks. Yeah, and
Are you set, Commissioner?
I am, thank you.
Wow, that was quick. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to follow up on Commissioner Brown's concerns, is it, Commissioner Leonetti had a couple of hearings about the ballot language, and we had put forward some suggestions, and my understanding is that we are generally in agreement on the language, it's just the numbers kind of need to be plugged in.
correct, and I've already revised the ballot language for the changes that were done, yes. And
Okay.
it's
So
plugging
hopefully
it
that'll
in.
make it a little less time-consuming, that we've already gone through that process, to some degree. So we're just kind of waiting for numbers, I assume, at this point.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now I don't have any more speakers left. Are you set?
Yeah,
You
I'm
good?
set. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you again
All
for
right.
coming up
Yep.
and tying it all together. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you all for your time this week.
Great. All right. Guess we could have a motion to receive and file, right? Any, Commissioner Lucido? Commissioner Hawes, supported by. Please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item number 8, we have Adam Majestic, who is our representative from the Detroit Regional Chamber, just coming here to introduce himself. He's new to the position, and I don't know that we've ever had anybody from the Detroit Regional Chamber come and talk to us, so welcome, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Chair Smith, for having me. Thank you, Crystal, for inviting me. My name is Adam Majestic. I am the new Government Relations Coordinator for the Detroit Regional Chamber. Our chamber represents over 2,500 companies in the 11 counties of Metro Detroit. Here in Macomb, we have right around 700 members. So I'm here today to introduce myself. I'm your dedicated Macomb partner. So if you have any sort of partnership opportunities that you could see us weighing our membership towards, we're always open to that. We are 100% always for some pro-economic growth. Criminal justice reform is one of our mainstays, and we're really looking forward to any sort of way we can help out with that too. I have my contact information with Crystal. I'm sure she could get that out too. I've also sent emails to everyone also introducing myself. That's all, really.
Anybody have any questions? We're so shocked to see someone from Detroit. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm
It's
happy
not
to
your
be
fault.
here. Yeah.
Happy to have you, Adam, and thank you for coming out, and hopefully we'll have you out here again soon.
Yeah, certainly.
And some commissioners will have some ideas on some things we can maybe partner up on, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Welcome. All right. Item number 9, Government Oversight Committee recommendations. Need a motion to approve. If anyone wants to do A and B together, I'll take those.
Mr. Chair?
You want to receive and file our meeting of
No,
Adam?
I wanted to separate the two items, actually.
That's fine. Okay. I'm sorry, you want to separate? That's fine. Give me a 9A, Commissioner Kraft, and then supported by Commissioner Duje. So let's, any discussion on 9A? I don't see anybody, so please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 9B, need a motion to approve. 9B, anybody for 9B? Commissioner Kleinfeld? Commissioner Duje? All right, any discussion on 9B? I don't see any speakers, so please vote.
The motion passes 8-3 with Commissioners Kraft, Lucido, and Romano voting no.
Thank you. Item 10, Internal Services Committee recommendations. Need a motion to approve. I'll take A through C unless anyone wants to separate them. A through C with Commissioner Duje, supported by Commissioner Drolet. I don't see anybody wishing to speak. Please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 11, Public Services Committee recommendations. I have A through F. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve all, I will take it. Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Anybody wishing to speak on any of these? If not, please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item number 12, Public Records and Public Safety Committee recommendations. Need a motion to approve A and B, I'll take, or A or B. A and B. Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Any discussion on either of these? Seeing none, please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Item 13A, Finance Audit and Budget Committee recommendations. A motion to approve 13A. Amendment apportionment report by Commissioner Brown, supported by Commissioner Drolet. Any speakers? Don't see any speakers. Please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 14A, which comes also from Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee, Resolution 2020-4483, designating public fund depositories. Need a motion to adopt or approve. Commissioner Duje, supported by, does our finance person wish to support her resolution? There you go. Commissioner Kleinfeld. Any speakers on this topic? I don't see any. Please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 15, proclamations. We have a proclamation honoring Macomb Community Action on the 30th anniversary of Walk for Warmth. Need a motion to adopt or approve. Commissioner Kleinfeld, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 16, new business. Any commissioners with new business? Commissioner Duje.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Upon walking in this afternoon, I was talking with the Blue Coats downstairs. And there's two things that I think need some attention. One is we have the electronic paddles for people that are having a heart condition and need medical
AEDs.
help.
Yep.
We have them all over, but they're not marked as far as where they are. And that's one. Two, the Blue Coats really haven't been trained on how to use them. That's one. Two is we had Narcan training apparently throughout the county. And the Blue Coats were also not counted as far as being trained in it or have access to it. If anything, I think that it'd be a good idea if we took a look at it and possibly included it in their training, or talk to the county executive to have him take a look at it and get this done. I think it's important for the people coming into this building or into any county building
I agree.
going forward.
I agree with you, and that's why I asked Patty to come in. They've recently done a building survey, emergency survey in this
Right.
building. We had to move the AED out of this locked room and into the hallway there. You're right, there is nothing designating on each floor where they all are. The good thing about the AEDs is there really is no training that needs to go along with them. As soon as you open it up, the training starts because it tells you exactly what to do.
Well-
So, I mean, there's nothing saying that they couldn't be, to go through it. But I asked Patty to show up just to talk about where that survey is at this point, and she can also note the Narcan and the training for the Blue Coats.
I think it's kind of important.
Well, I attended a meeting on October 25th, and it was an update meeting on this building's emergency plan.
Right.
It was a little alarming because we came back and checked our AED battery, and it had been like a couple of years out of date, expired, and some of the other ones within this building were also noted to be out of date. So we ordered our own, and Bob, that's how we know that it's really easy to use, because Bob changed the battery, and we all heard the thing walk him through what to do exactly, as if it were an emergency. So anyway, we're keeping track of our battery life. I haven't gotten an updated plan. As far as I know, they were still collecting the information. There were at the meeting maps of every floor, and so I indicated that they didn't know actually that we even had one on this floor. So there had been a security and vulnerability assessment done in July of 2019, but it, and I have it right here if you want to look through it. So then we had this meeting in October, and so the different representatives of departments were to make updates, which I did on our behalf as far as I knew with our equipment and things like that. So I can check with Brandon Lewis of emergency management and see where they're at in terms of actually putting together an actual final draft.
Maybe you could ask him to come into one of our meetings and talk to that, and then we could voice our
Well,
concerns about that too.
either way,
I think it's a good idea.
either, because we've had training for the sheriffs, for the people in the sheriff's department for Narcan and so on.
That was offered actually to the entire county
Right,
from,
well,
from
the
HR.
bluecoats apparently didn't know or weren't notified of it. So I, just, I think it'd be a good idea if they were, and if,
It may have been one of those ones that
it very well,
frequently you get, and so you get so many that you just.
yes. Either way, I think it's a good idea to have somebody trained at the doors and otherwise on using some of these, some of this equipment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make that note, and
Great.
I'll ask Brandon.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business, Commissioner? Well, I'm going to start at the end and work this way. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the last budget cycle, one of the things that stood out to me was the concern about the Juvenile Justice Center and the underutilization of that particular facility. And it seems like something we've just grown to live with a little bit. So I am wondering if it may be possible for this board to create something of a subcommittee to look into that issue, which I'd be happy to be part of. And would hope that some other commissioners may be interested in joining me in looking into that issue, working with the administration, looking at potentially some options, or at least getting some information about what options there may be to figure out how we can more effectively potentially use that facility or that resource while still taking care of the need for the county and the county what it's designed for. So I just want to put that out there and encourage any of my colleagues who might be interested in doing some poking around and asking some questions, maybe meet the executive's office a few times and see if we can come up with something. Maybe please talk to me, and I would then approach the board and see if we might want to put together some formal subcommittee to look into it.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, and please talk to the new chairman of the new subcommittee that's going to be formed for this, Leon, and then we're happy to have. Yeah. Listen, it is something that needs to be addressed, and whether we are the actual body to address it, we still vote on the budget that includes that facility that's very underutilized right now. So it certainly is not off the realm of reality on us looking into it, at least on our own, hopefully with some help.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a solution or anything. I'm not sure. I just want to get as much information as possible. Hopefully a small group can bring it back to this board. So maybe it'll help us all understand what we're facing there.
Well, we have found in the past that when we get involved and have some questions on things, and we commissioners either together or individually look into things, we find some answers that maybe weren't options that weren't looked at originally. So the more people on it, I think the better chance we might find something. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
I raised this issue today at our meeting, and specifically with regard to should Plan C, I think we're on with the jail. If that doesn't go, we still need intake area, and we've got this building that's sitting relatively, and Executive Hackle said, well, it's a needed entity. I mean, there's just nothing you can do with that. But I said, yes. But you could build a smaller that facility and then maybe reconfigure that to use. You'd still have to transport. I wouldn't say we got into a deep conversation about it. I just want to let you guys know that I raised the issue and put it on his radar, that it's on our radar. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to remind Commissioner Druletti's also volunteered to be the chair of our resolution committee, so that's two you volunteered for. Andre, I think the Bluecoats report to the sheriff. I'm almost positive of that. Just saying, since I do know one of them personally. Okay.
Maybe.
And finally, I wanted to say the chairman and I and Don Brown attended the Macomb Chamber of Commerce luncheon on, pardon me? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And they were talking about great things happening in Macomb, but they also threw up a caution flag. It's a little yellow light that says this may not be the case moving on forever down the future. So watch your expenditures and watch your asset flow. And, but for the most part, it was, Macomb County is doing very well. So I just thought I'd mention that to the commissioners. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sauger.
Yeah, I think almost 6 months ago, I brought this up about having signs out in the lobby of wet floors for the defibrillators. Yeah, I got it right. And,
Yeah, close enough.
and the Narcon, and you know, it hasn't been put out there yet. I brought it up because I was asked this question, what happens if something happens in here? We're all here, but on the hallway, there's no notice of where it's at. So I wish it would be expedited and not wait 6 months again.
Well, the bad thing is we don't control the buildings here. So, I mean, all the
Okay.
signs and all of that, we have, like I say, they've been in meetings since last October. And I know you've brought it up and we brought it up, so we'll continue and
Okay.
Patty will get on this again, and if nothing else, start getting some of the things done if they're not ready to do everything.
Did you say defibrillators too?
Defibrillator.
Yeah, good job, Bob.
All right. I used to say it once in a while in my old life. Any other new business on this side, Commissioner Brown?
I carry one of those Narcan next to my cigar, so if you guys need something, I got it right in my pocket.
Good to know.
Just strap it in my bag, I got a whole pack in my back pocket. I'm a walking paramedic. That's a joke. That is a joke. I don't want to take any space for my cigars. They're on your own. But anyway, but speaking of to Veronica's point, I also raised a question about the JJC, the vacant space that's over there. It's kind of set up for a jail just for kids. And maybe there's some better use for it too, so they've heard from more than one of us on the subject, so they know they're just not. I'm happy to join the Chairman Gillette's committee. Only one committee, however.
Which one?
The latter one dealing with the JJC. I'm happy to work on that with us if we decide to do that. And, yeah, Harold's right. Harold and I were sitting there kind of crowing a little bit because we're doing what they suggested we all do, which is be conscious of your budget, don't overspend, and keep your cards to your chest. And we did that. So, thank you.
Any other new business on this side? I will just remind everybody that Elizabeth is collecting for this year for the flower fund. Yep, Leon, you're off duty. Commissioner Lucido is collecting. Please contribute early and often.
I'm collecting money for the Huron Point Wildcat
Yeah.
dinner.
As soon as you get 100, give it to her. All right. Other new business? Seeing no other new business, we'll close new business. Public participation. Any members of the public wishing to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of brief things. Fred Miller, County Clerk, 162 Riverside Drive, Mount Clemens, Michigan. A couple of things I wanted to put before you, just as a preview of coming attractions. We're going to be releasing our year report to the community for wrapping up 2019. We're going to refer that to Chairman Leonetti's committee, and hopefully have the discussion about that at your pleasure. Two things I'm going to be referring to the appropriate committees for next month. Number one, we have to re-up our remonumentation program, and I know there have been a lot of questions about that going forward. So in advance of that, I wanted to invite, we're going to work with staff and work with you all to invite you over, or we can have it here. We're embarked on a partnership with planning to take the remonumentation data that we've collected, again, that's state funded, and integrate it with their GIS, their global imaging system tool, which you guys might be familiar with. It's really, really exciting. But because I know that people have had questions about the utility or what's going on with this program, and there really is a great story to tell, but it's not. It's complicated stuff. So I wanted to buy you all lunch out of my own pocket and maybe invite you in and come and see what we're doing with this, so we can have a better discussion about it as opposed to an open meeting. But I want to put that out there. We'll work with your staff to schedule that for you. And then secondly, our data conversion for our Register of Deeds is ongoing. You guys have approved multiple projects, multiple contracts for our old contracts, our new contracts. There are 8 million images in our Register of Deeds database. surprise, surprise, which should not be a surprise, and I shouldn't joke about it, but we're taking business from an old competitor and asking them to play nice with their new competitor and move all this data. Surprise, surprise, is being a little bit more complicated than we thought, and we are going to be seeking a month-to-month extension, probably 3 months. That'll be paid for out of our tech fund, as we'll propose, so it won't have any general fund impacts, but just wanted to let you know that'll be coming through civic clerk to you all in the for next month's consideration. And then lastly, we've launched our I Voted sticker contest. We have over 200 entries already. Our goal is to get to every district in the county. We have 7 districts in already and some private schools as well. But we're looking for some judges to help us judge this, and so it's a great opportunity for anybody who's interested to do that. Again, we'll work through staff to see if that works out with your schedule to kind of vet some of these really amazing entries that are there, and put it on your calendar. May 26th, we're going to have a reception at the ISD for the student artists, the teachers, the parents, and the community. And whether you choose to be a judge or not, that's a great opportunity for you to come and see people and get some exposure too. So I want to put that before you. We'll let your staff know to let you know as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you. You've made Commissioner Carabelli happy. He doesn't even know it with the remonumentation. Great. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing no members of the public wishing to speak, we will close public participation. Look for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Drolet, Commissioner Douget. Meeting adjourned.